Jane, huge news. The defense rested their case today, and it was a particularly emotional day. We had Parker Schenecker on the stand for most of today. He was the second to last witness, and Parker Schenecker detailed the entire relationship that he had with Julie Schenecker. And you gotta ask, you gotta wonder how many points the defense really scored by putting him up on the stand. It looked as if Julie Schenecker really emerged as someone who was really capable of lying in order to avoid paying consequences of her actions.
Now, he has been described, Alexis, as unemotional. He is a military man, and indeed he was serving our country when his wife was back in Florida killing their kids. Did you sense any kind of emotion today? In other words, he has control over his emotions, but did you sense a point where it just looked like he couldn't keep it contained anymore, despite being a former colonel, a retired colonel?
Well, I'll tell you, the emotions came through the emails that were read that were between Parker Schenecker and his wife before the killings. The emails showed that Parker Schenecker was making great efforts in order to try and save the marriage, save their family. And really, it outlined these emails that he was able to read portions of in court, showed that he was seeking treatment. He wanted family counseling. He was trying to make the family better. So despite how stoic he might be on the stand and how reserved he might be, he really was able to read through these emails and show what kind of guy he was, what kind of family guy he was.
Yeah, and we've got some of the emails right now that we're going to tell you about in the months leading up to the killings. Julie's behavior was getting more and more out of control. We've already heard testimony that she had a car accident, allegedly while under the influence. She slapped her daughter, Calix, and cops actually showed up, but they didn't go through and arrest her. I wish they had. Julie Schenecker's husband, Parker, now divorced, testified that he was at his wit's end. And he describes, as you just heard, an email that he sent to his wife's family. Listen.
I had said that I think I asked, have any of you ever lived with a 50-year-old who has the judgment of a 10-year-old?
Your perception at that time is that she's low functioning.
That was my perception, yes, ma'am.
Parker is trying to clean up his wife's messes. But, and I want to throw this to Dr. Judy Ho, forensic psychologist, is that another way of saying, despite his good intentions, he's enabling his wife? I want to go back out to the lion's den. Could Parker have been in a codependent relationship with Julie and thereby providing some kind of safety net that allowed her to continue to deteriorate and get worse and worse?
That's a great question, Jane. I think loved ones of people who are mentally ill often deal with this discrepancy. So how do they provide the support that their loved one needs, but not go overboard and actually end up enabling their illness so they never get better? But do you really walk away from that situation? Would that actually be solving the problem? Or are you just leaving them out to dry? And so I think Parker's really had a really difficult time with this, as you can tell with his emails. He's trying to put the boundaries down, but then he can't because she's so needy. And then he tries to take things away from her because she can't be responsible for them. But then he's not really putting all of the support in place so that he's not the one having to solve her mental illness problems. And so I think that's where things started to crumble, is because he started to deny how sick she actually was.
Sick or just a really bad person? I want to go to Anna Quinconces, a star of Real Housewives of Miami, also an attorney. Anna, the big debate of this entire trial is she just a drug addict and an alcoholic? And we'll document that in a second. She had a huge drinking and problem and also abused prescription drugs. Or is she completely insane and therefore not responsible at all? Or behind door number 3, is she just an evil person who had a hatred of her kids, and there is evil in this world?
I'm going to say a little bit of both. I think that, you know, they define insanity, and an insanity defense is not as commonly used as people think it is. It's really more a battle of the experts than anything else. I think you can be evil and insane. I think that it's hard not to know right from wrong when you're putting a gun in your child's mouth. But the impetus to pull the trigger, you have to be pretty messed up to do that. So I think there's a little bit of both. As far as what the, and I want to make a point about what the other guest was saying about Parker. And I think the fact that Parker was a military man, there is this sense, my brother is in the military and a colonel, you know, that Parker was, this whole sense of doing the right thing and standing by the family. You know, I don't believe that he was planning to divorce her necessarily. I believe that he was trying to do right by his children, right by his wife, and basically suck it up, even though she was either crazy, evil, or a combination of the two. And, you know, I think that's what we got from today's testimony.
Well, Demetria Lucas, let me jump in with this, pop culture expert, because as a person in recovery from alcoholism with 19 years of sobriety, I do know a lot about enabling. In other words, somebody who's there, like you said, this good guy, this colonel, there to help his wife no matter what. Isn't that classic codependency? Doesn't that enable the person to really get out of control because they've got that invisible safety net that's going to catch them no matter what? Perhaps if he had said, honey, you're on your own. I'm divorcing you. I don't care if you're a nut job or a boozer, a drugger, a bipolar or what. I'm out of here. She might have been off somewhere in some gutter somewhere, but these kids wouldn't be dead.
Well, I think that if he had totally bailed on the situation and taken responsibility for the children, would they probably be here now? Absolutely. But I think we're looking at this in hindsight, which is always 20/20. But I think in the moment, you're talking about his wife, you're talking about the mother of his children. He wants to make the best decision possible. I think he probably did what he felt was best at the time. I think by any means he meant to be an enabler to the situation.